Hello, people. This week I read Altered Carbon. Now, let me see how this is going to go. Normally, I will listen, if I listen to a book, I'll listen to it, and it has in the Audible app a little way you can clip things, right? You put clips in. Well, my clips went squirrely for some reason. I don't know why. But they're not there. So I had to sort of generate my notes a little bit different. Let's see if it affects the video. It shouldn't. It should be fine. I'm just letting you know. This book, well, first off, great title, Altered Carbon. It just sounds cool. It sounds science fiction already. The premise, the reason we would pick this book up, we being readers, is the technology such that you can be downloaded into a new body if and when, you meet your demise. And someone who has met his demise wants his demise investigated. That's the premise. I want you to find out who murdered me. I'm like, ooh. It's just very eye-catching. Yes? Very much so. I don't hate the premise. I don't really hate any of the ideas. I don't hate any of the backdrop, the backstory, the concepts. All of this is fantastic. The writing's good. It's just what ends up happening is kind of stupid. I'm just going to get it out of the way. It's kind of stupid. I'll explain as I go. We start with Takashi Kovacs. That's our main character. He's coming out of this tank. It's very cool. It's very science fiction. I don't hate it. But you instantly get the sense that it's very noir. It's very, that's just the sentiment. I'm trying to think of how I would describe noir. I don't know what noir means. It wants to be gritty. It wants to be edgy. It wants to be very, realistic, I guess. Cool in a way. This is noir. Stylish, dark, gritty. The bad side of town. The streetwise cat goes down the bad side of town. This energy. It's the best way I can describe it. I'm sure there's a better definition. It's just not coming to my head right now. He's pulled out and put in a body. That's what they call re-sleeving. When you get a new body, it's called re-sleeving. And he was pulled out because he had done some crimes, and they put him, what they say, long-term stack storage. Now, we're early in the book, so part of me is still interested in, of course, the big nugget. Yeah, this is interesting. But what the big nugget's going to be the murder case. Like, who killed this guy who's still alive? It's just interesting. So when we get to this, your long-term storage as a prison sentence, it rubs me a little weird. But in the reading of it, it doesn't ruin the book at this moment. But later, as you go, you start to wonder. And I don't think a long-term storage of my stack, that's what they call it. The chip is behind in your neck. And when you die, they'll just put that chip on ice for 100 years, and then you come back out because you were in jail. I'm like, I don't know that that's actually that much of a punishment. I don't know how much I'd actually care about that. You might say it would make criminality difficult. I don't think it would. I think they would just start to juggle. So if I got 50, one guy in trouble for 100 years, and the next year another guy in trouble for 50, and the next year, etc., I just get new cats. There's always enough people. And in 100 years, they're coming off of the stack sleep and refitting into slots of other people who are now getting into trouble and getting arrested for the next 100 years. So I, as the boss, lifted the whole thing, and my crews just come in and out, and he just readjusts to the new. Well, we're selling purple now instead of green. The criminals don't actually care, and the guy can resubstitute every time. So it's after a while, your workflow is just consistent. At some point, you wouldn't even need new cats because enough get recycled in and out. At some point, he'd be better at criminality and get caught less. But as a punishment, I don't think that's much of a punishment. Especially since in this world, it's everybody. There's no one that doesn't get re-sleeved when they die, essentially. It's not so perpetual yet. We're in the early stages of it. So that our rich people may be the oldest. Some are 400 or 500 years, but we're not at the 10,000 year mark yet in terms of, the science fiction of it. But essentially, no one won't get sleeved. So I don't know how much of a problem that is. It's kind of, I'm like, nah. The longest lived people are called Meths. And they relate it to Methuselah from the Bible. And I just kind of roll my eyes at it because I'm like, okay, we get it. You're trying to be real edgy and, sharp and smart. And you're trying too hard. That's a lot of this book is trying too hard. Or Kovac comes out of the tank and he's really Mr. Like, can I get a cigar real quick? What'd you wake me up for? This kind of, we get it, you're cool. Move the story forward. And it doesn't take long before cool starts to just be annoying. But by the end of this, I am kind of genuinely annoyed at Kovac, our supposed hero. Not, you can have an anti-hero and they're all, I don't like them, but I will respect them. This isn't that. This isn't he does things I don't like. This is he's annoying in how he functions and talks to people. It's annoying. He's annoying for no reason, really. The dude who wakes him up, our murder victim, our rich guy, is named Bancroft. He is one of these Meths, these long-lived people, 500 years. And he gets Kovac out because he heard he's a special envoy. And he wants this special envoy to figure out who killed him. And it's your classic murder in a sealed room scenario, wherein all the doors are locked, no one can get in or out, yet someone got in, killed someone, and got out. How did we do this? The question is fantastic. It's been fantastic every time it's used throughout literature. The problem always is in sticking the landing. This one doesn't stick the landing, meaning the outcome is dumb compared to the complication of the setup. Setup being he's a rich guy. If he dies, he's going to be instant downloaded into another stack that's, 48 hours old or something. So it's that other backup is up to date. So there's no real point to kill him other than what he might have learned, seen, or done in the 48 hours in between downloads. The gun he has, which killed him, is locked in a safe that only he and his wife can get into. He's rich, so it's not like people are wandering in and out of his house. We understand rich people have systems in place to keep people out and away. So you start to wonder, how did this happen? Our Kovac, he doesn't like, I never see like a real investigative arm about it. He's asking questions and he's very blunt in his asking, which by the end, I mean, turns into annoyance, like I'll say. He's trying to get a read. He doesn't, the guy like offers to give him a gun and he's like, I don't use guns. I'm above it. And I laugh because he gets kidnapped by some cats and then tortured. And then later after that goes and buys guns. And it's like, well, you should have just accepted the gun to begin with. Now, in the moment you want to get across, I think you get the sense that the author wants to get across special envoys are above the use of guns somehow. And I'm like, that's cool, but he never shows me what that is. Now, when it's explained, what happens? Why special envoys exist is we are now on multiple planets, but one government. So if something's happening on secondary planet, third planet, way away, it takes a ship X amount of time to get there. By that time, it's been resolved. It's a new power's entrenched. However the government wants it to have gone, didn't go that way. We can't guarantee that it would because of the distances. And if I train or enhance technologically this body, then that body's not going to make the trip. What they do is they get the data and beam it to the other planet into a new sleeve that's there, and then you can walk around and do stuff. I'm like, that's a really cool freaking idea. You don't even have to have space travel. I just beam people around. Problem, if you're a government entity that wants to ensure a particular outcome, is that body isn't this one. So if this one learns certain kung fu muscle memory, then I'll remember the move, but that move isn't, in the muscle memory of the new body. It takes years to punch, to get the reflexes in the sort of body to punch, to get the bones to be dense, etc., etc. You might not even eat right, and then you get tired. And whereas in your mind, I know I should fight longer, but the body's unable to. So the special envoys were created as a sort of philosophical attack, if that makes sense. I need to think of a mental way to combat, for the purposes of my government, what it needs me to combat without having the stability of anything. I can't, when I beam into the planet, I can't know if I'm beaming into a war, into a weird peace, into heavy politics, into absolute chaos. There's no telling what it is, but I can train you up so that you're ready to basically handle any outcome, any situation. I'm like, that sounds very cool. Takashi Kovacs isn't that. He starts that way, but then it doesn't manifest in any kind of way. He's not a good detective. He's not tactically sound. So if you get set up by a rich guy, you take his gun, even if you don't need it. I might need it. I might not. I don't know this planet. There's a certain way you can be aware of the room, right? Like an actor can sit on the bench and watch people and start to mimic or pick up on things. This society, the men wear hats. This society, the women walk in front. The culture starts to wash in and out. He didn't show any sign of being able to pick up on culture changes, technological changes, mood, popularity, any of the things that function in a society. He had no awareness of it whatsoever. He's just taking strolls down the park, getting bonked on the back of the head. It's kind of goofy. He's kind of a goofy idiot. So he gets captured. And what ends up happening is he's in a body that belongs to a man named Riker. And the whole time I was just thinking of Riker from Star Trek, but that's a personal problem I'm sure not everyone will have. It didn't ruin it because it works as Riker. In any case, Riker is a dirty cop and these criminals took him. And he kept saying, I'm not Riker, I'm Kovac. I'm a special envoy hired by Bancroft. There's no reason for him to lie about this, so he doesn't. But we go on a whole tangent where they just want to torture him because they don't believe it. And I guess that makes sense for criminals who may not be used to dealing with this sort of body changing, but it didn't seem that way because some of the criminals themselves seem to not be in original sleeves, if that makes sense. So it's tenuous at best. The torture. They re-sleeve him into a woman, a young woman. And again, I could sort of see it coming. He wants to be, I say he, author. Our author wants to be a bit of an edgelord and do this, I guess, controversial thing of torturing a lady, a young woman. And he kind of does. So, it's sort of like a graphical warning here. The torture is fairly involved, fairly descriptive. If that's not something you're interested in at all, I would avoid this book because he doesn't shy away from it because he has the out as an author of it not being an actual dead person. It's just a frame, a body that's this person's inside. So there's that. I get the sentiment of why he did it. It really is just for effect. The story doesn't need it. It doesn't move things along in any kind of a developmental way. If that maybe this is your first noir, maybe the edginess you think is exciting or interesting, it's fairly generic. But in the course of this torture, I'm expecting to see special envoy-ness. Again, it does not manifest. He'll have memories back in time to trainings, but none of them end up helping him in his current situation. It's brutal torture, then a re-sleeve, and then brutal torture. At some point, you might say, maybe you're getting too much into the special envoy-ness. Maybe it's not that big a deal. Maybe there's nothing you can do to torture. And I was kind of thinking the same thing. But at some point, he has this person, the sleeve that he's in, it's not his body. The sleeve that he's in, he stops its heart so that it will die and he can end the torture early. That's a skill, mental, that I'm assuming the special envoy brought up. That's how it comes across. So I'm like, why wouldn't you just stop your heart every time until they're like, boss, it ain't going to work. He keeps killing himself. And then you talk to the big cheese and say, I'm not Riker. Do you think Riker can stop his heart 15 times in a row in 15 different sleeves? Does that make sense to you? No. Well, then let me out. He doesn't do this. He just gets tortured until the boss wants to talk to him. Second point about the torture. They make it known through this and through Bancroft. Because in this, they said, I could torture the sleeve, you in the sleeve, or I could torture you virtually. I could make a whole virtual world, torture you in the world over and over. I'm like, the criminals would do that because it's cheaper. It's got to be cheaper to make a virtual torture chamber rather than pay for multiple sleeves, which are fully grown bodies. It's got to be cheaper. It just got to be cheaper. But that's not the route they go. They say it's because they don't want to break his mind mentally or something, because then the information isn't as good. I'm like, I guess. I don't know. It does bring up a cool point in that they call it psychosurgery. And I thought this was cool. The fact that I could be re-sleeved 3 times, be 150 years old, and then just have memories in my head that are skewing weird and need a surgeon to come in and cut out certain memories, or I guess they would think that some people can't rationally accept the new body that's looking at them in the mirror, so that they need psychosurgery to help them square that up. This kind of, I thought that was a cool little nugget. Like I said, all the world building parts are very fun. It's just everything else. He sort of bluffs his way out of this torture because he had no real technique to get out. I'm like, a special envoy's never been captured and tortured? This is stupid. In any case, he has no way out until he bluffs his way out. He gets out, gets guns, and goes back and basically kills everyone. And the way they describe it is, if you shoot with their phaser, the gun, or whatever, I think he had like a laser gun, just cutting people in half. Very graphic as well. The laser guns are cool. If you shoot them in the back of the neck and melt where that stack is, it's melted and you can't re-download. It's like breaking someone's hard drive. So that's dead. He deads everyone in the facility. First, he just like, oh, I was tortured, so now I'm going to get back at everyone. I mean, that makes no sense. Again, a special envoy should have some kind of self-control. What benefit does it do anything to just nuke a bunch of people who are just normies? And to him, a criminal is the same as these other, they're normies. They haven't done this 1,000 times like he has or supposedly has. The lack of control, it bugs me. Because he's supposed to be a trained operative. A spy might get tortured and then just brush it off. It's just a spy, you know? It was very dumb. And over the top and unnecessary. Miriam Bancroft. Miriam Bancroft is your Bond girl of the situation here. She is the complete sex pot, super hot, and it leads right into sexy time. And this is sort of the same as The Violence, wherein it's highly descriptive, in your face, sexy time written in. It almost seems out of place. It's the same as The Violence in that it's trying to be edgy. If you're not interested in reading that kind of material, the sexy time material, then, you know, I would avoid this one because it's not shying away. Our author seems to enjoy it. Nothing wrong, I guess, per se. It's just a warning that exists in this book at, I guess, a fairly high level. Story-wise, she wants him, for some reason, to drop the investigation and sort of just become a sex toy for her or something and just be hidden. I don't know. He teams up, or he meets a lady officer named Ortega. And we come to find out that she'd been giving him grief, and he tries to find out why. It turns out the why is that his sleeve is her boyfriend, Riker. The actual Riker is in a relationship with her, so she's upset that sleeve's being used improperly for whatever this is. So she got some grief with it, but also some concerns that body should be maintained. I mean, I guess that's reasonable. But we also have this kind of, you look like my person, so I act this way trope. If you've seen a certain amount of science fiction, this has come up. Wherein, I don't know, like an alien shows up and looks like your father or your favorite uncle. And next thing you know, the character's like talking to him like it's their uncle. It's always been a stretch for me. It's a stretch here. The people that I know those people. I think this is the same for most everyone. You know your people. So that if like your person gets turned into, I don't know, an alligator, let's say an alligator that can talk. Just go with me. If your person got turned into an alligator that talked, And now you're both sitting watching the football game or soccer game. And a commercial comes up. The alligator is your person inside. So they'll say and see and comment to the commercials the same as they would in their normal body, essentially. If they're like, that's goofy, I'd never buy that product. Those shoes are annoying. You know these things about your person because they're your person and you've spent more than 5 minutes with them. So the fact that the people in these books, this one included, act like just because they look exactly like my person means they're my person is a dumb stretch to me. It really is, because Kovacs is so freaking annoying. It wouldn't take me 2 seconds to go, oh, that's my person. Except not. He's acting like a douchebag. And then he's like, I'm not your person. I'm Takashi Kovacs, a special envoy. I'm like, oh. So what do we do now? I could understand the concern for the shell. I'd like my person to get their body back. They'd appreciate that. But everything else doesn't click. They end up like sort of in a relationship because she just can't stop being in love with this shell. And I'm like, you just told me you could make virtual reality prostitutes and virtual reality torture chambers. Why couldn't she just make virtual reality Riker shell and, get her kicks with that, seeing as how she doesn't care about the guy inside because the guy inside's different, talks different, and is a douchebag. But they never square this up very well. It's very not consistent. So like the idea of, do you want to smoke a cigar or does the body want to smoke a cigar? I mean, the body is addicted. Or are you addicted in your mind? Some would say a little bit of both. That makes sense to me. So if I get sleeved into a person who's addicted to cigarettes, you'll feel that somewhat chemically. The urge will be less strong for me mentally because I don't smoke cigarettes, but the physical will still be there fairly strongly. And I'm like, what is that? I feel like I'm going to vomit. I'm like, that guy smokes. You better go smoke one. And I'm like, I guess I smoke now. I'm smoking. We never square this up. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's this body needs this. And sometimes I'm completely immune to those things because of my mental. It's very wishy-washy, this whole story. It's very weird. Another sort of weird moment. Now, so many of these are from Special Envoy-ness. I really do think that if you would have just made him a cop or a private investigator, just a former cop who had trouble with the police chief and became a private investigator, that would have functioned a lot better for the whole story rather than this special envoy element. But I think the author thought the hurdles would be too high for a normal person. And I'm sitting there reading, I'm like, the hurdles were too high for our special envoy because he keeps getting captured and doinked in the head. He's kind of an idiot. In any case, he's supposed to be a special envoy. It'd be like your Navy SEAL. Navy SEAL can be at a PTA meeting. He looks like a normal dad, and then the crap hits the fan, and he's Navy SEAL again, right? And he's like, well, we used to blow up cars like this in Iraq. Well, I learned this in the jungles of Nicaragua. I'm like, bro, you've been a lot of places. I'm like, yeah, I'm a Navy SEAL. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. Our special envoy constantly is bringing up Harlan's world. That's the world he's from. The idea of Harlan's world, I don't hate. It's new. They're mostly Japanese. They have this quasi-Japanese culture. All that I love. I love everything about Harlan's world. That's not my problem. My problem is, apparently that's the only place he's ever been in his whole life is Harlan's world. He never mentions another third or fourth planet. He's some special envoy that didn't go out on missions, who is unable to cope with the new things on Earth with any kind of quickness whatsoever. You're like, what is this? And they're like, you don't know what a chicken is? And he's like, I'm not from here. And I'm like, you can't figure out things real quick by observation, bro? Oh, they're sipping that. Maybe it's some kind of beverage to sip. What is this? What is this tea? You ain't never drunk tea before? What are you, retarded? I'm not from here. I'm from Harlan's World. Like, we get it. We get it. But I don't understand it. If he were a detective, it makes sense. He's never been off Harlan's World. He's just done stuff on Harlan's World. And we could have the rich Bancroft say, I lived on Harlan's World for 50 years. It's a very nice commune. This would have been much cleaner of a story if he weren't a special envoy. In any case, he was. And he knows nothing ever. I tell you, that what I've been describing is the extent of his investigation. He goes and talks to like 2 people, gets doinked on the head and tortured. He can't find any kind of clues. He doesn't logic leap to any kind of conclusion in any way. He's not able to decipher any part of why this man died. And I'm sitting there and the readers are sitting there going, what the crap does any of this have to do with anything? I have no earthly idea. He ends up talking or getting recaptured again to talk to a Kawahara. This is a math. I got the sense that this was a special envoy as well at some point. Maybe not, but at some point he had dealings with this person before. She's a big-time evil boss. She's big-time baddie. She's real cool, calm, and collected. I kind of like Kawahara. Kind of cool. She's the one running this whole thing behind the scenes, and she wanted to go a lot smoother, but the cops got involved. However this worked out. We're not talking to this one. He knows this person, and it's instant hostility. Like, he's not hidden at all about, I don't like you, and if I could kill you this instant, I would. And the person just laughs like, it'd do no good, I'd just download again. And he's like, I know, but I'd still want to stick you. And I'm sitting here like, you're not on Harlan's World, idiot. You don't know anything about anything that's going on around you. You have a sweetheart deal from Bancroft that maybe could get you out of jail, out of stack sleep, if you could figure this thing out. But you don't know essentially what's going on. Neither do you care. You're not from here. So why the instant hostility? You understand this person's typically powerful. When they make threats, you accept them as able to carry out their threats. It didn't benefit you in any way to be so hostile, so instantaneous, other than it makes you kind of look cool. They want him to lie to Bancroft and trick him into saying he killed himself. Think of a way you're in a special envoy. And he's like, I'm loyal to Bancroft for no reason. For no reason at all. He doesn't know Bancroft from a hole in the wall. But he gives it grief. Like, I'm going to give this some grief. He decides, fine, because she threatens his lady, Sarah. Like, I'm going to pull your lady out the stack and torture her like you were tortured. And her mind will break, and you know it because she's not as good as you. So, you do what I say or I'll do that. Which is reasonable as a form of motivation. Like I said, though, Bancroft offered him $100,000 and freedom. This Kawahara could offer the same thing. You just trick him, pay me. So Bancroft pays me $100,000. You pay me $100,000. Only instead of telling him the truth, I'd sell him a lie that he believes, and then I go on my merry way because he's going to free me, and I'll go on with $200,000, and you give me my lady, and I'll hate you, but I won't do anything about it because I'm not from here, and we'll just go live on Harlan's World where you're not there anyway. That seems like more reason to me. Instead, he gets it in his mind not to do this. He tricks Bancroft into thinking he killed himself. What is he saying? Rawlings virus. That's what they call it. He says you're corrupted with Rawlings virus because of these brothels you go to. And again, here's a rich guy who's going to brothels. He goes to a brothel. Some of them CG, some of them with sleeved prostitutes. And in the course of the conversation, I end up siding with the rich guy who went to the prostitutes rather than Kovac, because Kovac is such a douchebag in how he's talking to him. Like, I get that he's rich. I get that he's gone to prostitutes. I don't mean you just talk to him like he's dirt. He's not, he didn't do that much wrong on the scope of things. But he treats him like dirt for no reason. It's very, very annoying. I really don't like this character, and not in any kind of a good way. He's just a douchebag. This man has his proclivities. It's not like Kovac is super clean all the time. So he's tricked him into this, but then he wants to, I don't know, he wants to set things right, or so, I don't know what he's wanting. I'd have just taken my lady and gone. He wants to take out Kawahara. So in the course of this, we find out, like, why did Kawahara care if this guy? Why does Kawahara want this guy not investigating it? What we end up finding out is this the dumbest thing. What we end up finding out is Kawahara does dirty stuff. He's a corrupt, dirty criminal. And they're going to pass a law called Resolution 653. And I'm like, oh my God, we're doing this for a resolution. Wherein Catholics, Roman Catholics, because apparently with all this resleeving, Roman Catholics have decided to sort of abstain. They live one life, and when they die, and they don't want to be re-sleeved into another body. I'm like, I don't know how many of these there would be. My guess is not many. Also, I might have named it something different. I don't know what I would have named it, but just a bit of a name change would have helped here. It's kind of like when they say the Orange Catholic Bible in Dune. It's enough of a change to throw my brain off rather than being too grounded, because you can go outside and meet Roman Catholics right now. They're normal people. You can go talk to them. You probably pass some if you went to a Walmart. It grounds it too much, maybe. In any case, this law would bring them back to testify as to why they died, or some mess like this. I don't know. It's just so stupid. Kawahara doesn't want this and tried to talk to Bancroft. And Kawahara says, my mistake was in thinking he might have changed his mind. These two have been friends for 300 plus years. Now, you can, in the course of your life, be friends with someone for 5 or 6 years, 10, 15, as you get older, right? You can quickly get to a point where you realize certain people don't change their mind on certain things. So I can imagine extrapolating out to like 300 years. I'm like, I know this cat. It wouldn't have even been a question. That's the dumbest thing to think, that after like 400 years of friendship, he's going to start thinking differently now for some reason. It's very stupid. It's very stupid. So what happened is, in a weird kink of some kind, your Bancroft wanted to like kill a prostitute to get his kicks, but not actually kill them. A la, they get re-sleeved, so I could technically strangle someone to death in some weird sexual thing, and then they get brought back so they didn't actually die. Turns out the girl he killed was a Roman Catholic, so she's not going to come back. So it's an actual murder. And that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's so dumb. So that we're saying Bancroft lives with this guilt. And that's why he actually killed himself. So you tricked him into believing what actually happened is that he killed himself. And one, that's not an interesting way for the thing to end. The setup is cooler than the outcome. It's never typically good. And then two, if you look at the history of the Gilded Age, you have cats who are stupid rich as where Bancroft and Kawahara are coming across. Extremely rich. There was one family in New York who owned a huge freaking estate. Like county size or something. Just obscene. So that from their house, as far as they could see in any direction, and all the way to the Hudson River, it's just their yard. And they don't even have to have a road bypass it. People have to drive all the way around because they bought the property, then ensure that every government official's completely in their pocket, so that no government official will even say a road needs to go through their land. And they just own them. Their county's their little fiefdom. They're not running the county. They have other people. Those government officials do it. But they all answer to me essentially because I'm paying them all this big tons of money. I mean, they're just sitting on just so much money. This is how they want to function. It's essentially like a wetlands or however big their yard is. They own the entire county. Doesn't matter if you're a judge, the chief of police, the city council, all of them right here in their pocket do exactly what they say. That person's not 500 years old. Can you imagine J.P. Morgan, if he doesn't die, how tight a hold he'd have on some crap around him? That's his Bancroft. He's supposed to be this rich to-do guy. Everyone just knows his name. If he wanted Resolution 653 passed, it'd be passed. It's just I don't even know why he wouldn't even bother. Who cares about these Roman Catholics? Who cares? He wouldn't care. This criminal is not going to get taken down by one dead Roman Catholic girl. You just put some other person in and take the fall. I mean, we're talking about 500-year-old criminals. It's so stupid as a motivator. I would have better accepted it was some weird bet. Like two rich people were betting as to who can stab the other one. And I don't want the other rich people to know I'm stabbing people. So I want this covered up. That would have worked better to me for the characters in the class that they're in than Resolution 653. It's so stupid. And then to add insult to injury, to accomplish this, he needs to be two people at the same time. So that's what he does. He's in one sleeve and he gets the backup, or he gets another copy of himself put in another sleeve. They call it double sleeving. And then he goes and handles two things at once. And in the course of this, he has Kawahara cut off so that he says, if you die, your other sleeve is corrupted and it'll be dead too. I've set you up that way. I'm like, that's a pretty cool trick. But from the flip side, I'm not sure why your Kawahara wouldn't be double sleeved. Because it's illegal. And I go, he's a criminal. He doesn't care about the law. And add to it, what rich person cares about the law anyway? Half of them do whatever they want. You know? How many rich people probably break a law? How many times have there's like people with the OJ trial? Oh, he got off because you paid your way out, etc., etc., etc. Now add 500 years of this. Of course, every rich person is going to be double sleeved, and I'm like, if there's two of me, all right, well, I'm going to do this fun thing. You go do that fun thing, and if something happens to this one, that one will just continue being me with 6 months off of this. Like this one learned the flute, but that one doesn't know how. It didn't have to be that bad. I could have two, and they're both downloading and then merging the data. And so every so often I get an update, and I'm like, oh, I guess I sailed the 7 seas on Harlan's world, because why would I leave one on the same planet? No, we don't do that. This one's not double sleeved for some reason. Evil boss lady, not double sleeved, because why would anyone ever double cross her? So he tells her you're cut off to hold her at gunpoint. And don't worry, momentarily he's going to get conked on the back of the head. He does. But in the interim, so he's telling her this. She tests it and get a sense like, I think this is real. Meaning, this life I'm leading right now is it. Until I get my backup reestablished, this is it. So when the conk on the head happens, does she just instantly kill Kovacs? No. She has some weird retribution angle. She's upset. She's making phone calls. What the crap are you doing? If it's me, and this person's against me, I might kill them. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'd chop their legs off so they can't run after me. Then I would leave. Because whatever Prop 653 is, whatever trouble I can get into, whatever Kovacs can do to me, pales in comparison to me potentially being able to be killed for real. I can't have that if I'm a 500-year-old evil boss. First things first, reestablish the backup. Get that fixed. Then sort this out. If I got to go to jail after the fact, I'll just deal with jail. I'll have big-time lawyers. I'll get out of it. I'll get out of probation. I'll I don't know. There's 10,000 ways you can fix that problem if you're still alive. Instead, this person's taking personal interest in getting stabby with Riker, the Kovacs, or whoever the crap. It was Kovacs. The Riker went somewhere else. Getting stabby with Kovacs is I want to personally torture your person. I'm this is stupid. This is the dumbest criminal. This is the dumbest 500-year-old criminal I've ever seen. Who does not have their priorities straight whatsoever. It was so stupid. In any case, of course, Kovacs is able to come to. They blows everybody up and kills Kawahara dead. I'm fine. Don't care. So he ends up paid by Bancroft. He saves his lady. He kills the Kawahara. He figured out the crime, which was suicide. There's some kind of an epilogue, but I'm going to tell you, I didn't care. I honestly didn't care. I was kind of annoyed with this book. Those are the main things that I remember about it. I'm trying to think. I like everything else about it. It tries too hard. It tries much too hard to be edgy, and it's just cringe. The technology is really great. Beaming people around is fun. I like this idea of new sleeves. It opens up a lot of possibilities, none of which are properly explored because we have Kovacs to deal with, Takashi Kovacs, who's apparently stupid. And that's Altered Carbon. Let me see. Let me remove this. I cover up the time so I talk freely instead of staring at it. Okay. That was Altered Carbon. This is your ad time. These are my books. You can buy them and help the channel. You can get Kindle Unlimited as of the time of this recording and read them there and read other books there in case they suck. You won't be out any money. You can comment. You can subscribe. Or you can just watch and enjoy. However you want to do it. We're good any way you want to do it. Okay. I will talk to you all next week.